I'm Thandi. I'm 38, and I work as an in-house cook for one of the wealthiest families in Johannesburg. I've spent years moving through life almost invisible, unnoticed, starved for attention and touch, and quietly desperate in ways I didn't even fully understand. Then there's Gideon, my boss. Tall, impossibly broad-shouldered, with that kind of presence that makes a room feel smaller the moment he enters. Everything about him, the way he moves, the quiet confidence in his voice, the sharp assessing glances, has become a constant weight in my chest. I've never acted on anything, and I never will. But the truth is, I have felt it. Desire, longing, the almost unbearable pull towards someone I know I should never want. And I nearly crossed a line, more than once. This is my confession, my story of temptation, restraint, and the moments when my life as I know it nearly unraveled because of a man I could never have. Every morning begins the same way. I arrive before anyone else, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the floorboards. I move with practiced precision, chopping, stirring, preparing meals that I know will be consumed without a second thought. No one notices me. That's how it's always been. Invisible, routine, safe. Until Gideon appears. He doesn't announce himself with words. He doesn't need to. The moment he steps through the door, the air changes. Even from across the room I can feel it. A presence that commands attention without demanding it. He is impossibly tall, broad and solid. Every movement controlled, deliberate. There's an ease to him that makes me aware of my own smallness, my own quietness. Yet somehow, in that very awareness, my pulse picks up, my chest tightens, and a heat I can't name spreads through me. I catch myself stealing glances more than once a day. The way he leans over the counter to inspect something, the angle of his shoulders, the short laugh he gives when speaking to someone else. I tell myself it's harmless, just observation, just admiration, but my body betrays me. Even the brush of his hand against mine when he takes a plate I'm holding sends sparks up my arm. I jerk back immediately, pretending nothing happened. And still, I want more. I know the rules. I know my place. I am his employee, and he is untouchable. Yet the mind wanders in ways the body can't suppress. I imagine conversations that never happen, touches that never occur, and I can almost feel the weight of him in those private fantasies. My desire is wrapped in guilt, tight and suffocating, and every day I live in fear of it spilling over. At night, I replay the moments that shouldn't have meant anything but did. I relive his casual glance, the quiet way he moves around the kitchen, the smell of his cologne that lingers long after he leaves. It's a torment I carry alone. A secret fire that burns just beneath the surface of my professional composure. I am painfully aware of the magnetic pull he exerts, the unspoken tension that exists in every glance, every accidental touch, every moment I'm in his proximity. And I am terrified of how easily I could cross a line, and how impossible it would be to return if I did. The kitchen is supposed to be my sanctuary, a place where I can control everything. Flavors, timing, presentation. But whenever Gideon is near, it becomes a minefield of tension I can barely navigate. He doesn't need to speak for the air between us to crackle. Even the smallest interactions are loaded, and I am acutely aware of every brush of his hand, every accidental lean that brings his broad chest close to mine. Carrying a tray of breakfast to the dining room, I catch him in the doorway. Our eyes meet for a fraction of a second, just long enough for my stomach to twist. He doesn't linger, doesn't say anything, but the weight of that glance settles in me like a physical force. I feel it in my thighs, my shoulders, the shallow rhythm of my breath. I force my gaze down, blink, and continue moving. But his presence lingers in the periphery of my mind long after he's gone. Sometimes I reach for the same utensil he's taking at the counter. Our hands brush, just a moment, but enough to ignite a warmth I cannot explain. I pull back immediately, hands trembling slightly, pretending it's clumsiness. Yet inside, a voice whispers that it's more than clumsiness, that it's an unspoken exchange, a hint of mutual awareness that can't exist between us and yet somehow does. There are moments when I'm standing behind him, washing dishes, and he is oblivious to how close I am. I feel the heat radiating off him, his movements slow, confident. My hands become clammy, and my mind races with every "what if" I know I cannot act upon. I tell myself this is wrong, that I am his employee, and he would never cross the line, and yet the proximity alone is intoxicating. Even in silence, there is communication. A subtle shift in his posture, a lingering look toward me when he thinks I'm busy, a quiet hum or laugh that I catch by accident. These tiny, ordinary things carry the weight of something impossible. I imagine the electricity of touching him, the sensation of his hand resting on mine for longer than it should. And just as quickly as the thought comes, I shove it away, aware of the consequences that would follow. I find myself anticipating these moments with a strange, guilty eagerness. When he walks through the door, my heart speeds. When he leaves, my chest empties, a hollow ache that only his return can fill. I am trapped between longing and restraint, and every glance, every brush of our hands, every proximity to him becomes a test of my control, a test I almost fail every single day. Even now, recounting it, I can feel it, the tension, the desire, the nearly unbearable pull of a connection that should not exist. It's a silent torment, one that I carry alone, a secret fire that refuses to die, no matter how much I tell myself it must. There are moments when I catch myself almost forgetting who I am, almost forgetting the rules that separate us. Like yesterday, while arranging plates on the counter, Gideon stepped closer than usual. His shoulder brushed mine, not by accident. I could feel the deliberate weight of it, and the contact sent an involuntary shiver through me. I tried to steady my hands, to focus on the task, but my body betrayed me. A rush of heat, a tightening in my chest, a quiver that wasn't from fatigue. He leaned over to inspect the stove, his arm brushing the small of my back as he passed. The pressure was subtle but insistent, enough to make my pulse race. I froze, pretending to adjust a pan, while every nerve screamed in awareness of him so close. I could smell his cologne, musky and sharp, and it was almost too much, too intoxicating, too close to crossing boundaries I had spent my life respecting. Later, as I washed vegetables at the counter, he reached for the same knife I was holding. Our hands touched, again, and lingered for the fraction of a second that felt like an eternity. My grip tightened reflexively around the handle, a mixture of fear, shame, and the impossible desire that I had carried in secret for months. I forced myself to look away, but the warmth of his skin, the subtle strength of his fingers, remained in my awareness, almost burning into me. Everyday tasks became exercises in restraint. Every accidental shoulder brush, every close proximity, every fleeting touch ignited a storm inside me. I rationalized it constantly. It's just heat, just proximity. I'm imagining it. It doesn't mean anything. But the truth is, it means everything. The tension isn't just emotional, it's physical, raw, impossible to ignore. My body remembers the brush of him on my arm, the near collision of our legs in narrow hallways, the weight of his hand so close to mine as he adjusts something on the counter. Each contact, each touch is a spark, and I fear what might happen if I let myself feel it fully. I catch myself lingering, heart hammering, imagining what it would feel like if one of these touches lasted longer. But I stop myself every time, reminding myself of the life I have, the boundaries I cannot cross, the shame I would carry. The conflict is constant. Every part of me aches for more, yet my mind forces me back into control. It's a delicate, exhausting balance, desire and restraint, longing and guilt, temptation and morality. And yet, every touch, every near brush, Every fleeting proximity leaves me raw, aware of how vulnerable I am and how dangerously close I came to losing myself in him. It happened late one evening, long after the house had grown quiet. I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when Gideon appeared without knocking. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there, tall and still, and I felt the air shift around us. My pulse raced, my body alive with the kind of tension I had been suppressing for months. Every inch of me wanted to step back, to avoid the proximity that now felt electric. Yet I was frozen, aware of the heat of him so close. He reached past me for a tray of glasses, and his arm brushed mine, heavier this time, deliberate, lingering longer than usual. The contact sent a shiver down my spine, a spark I could barely contain. I could feel the strength of his body, the warmth, the subtle brush of muscle against my own. My mind screamed at me to step back, to remember who I was and where I belonged. But desire pressed insistently, whispering of things I would never allow myself to speak. Then he turned, his voice low and calm, almost intimate. "Thandi, you've been different these last weeks." My stomach dropped. I was caught, not in my thoughts, but in something far more dangerous. I could see the faintest shadow of understanding in his eyes, the awareness that I had tried so hard to hide. I opened my mouth, heart hammering, ready to deflect, to laugh it off. But he stepped closer, and something shifted. There was a softness there, a recognition of the tension that had been simmering between us. But it wasn't what I expected. "I know what you've been feeling," he said quietly, and my breath caught. My mind raced, thinking the line had been crossed, thinking we were on the brink of something impossible. But then came the twist that shattered everything. He smiled, small and knowing, and said, "I've been watching you, yes, but not like that. I've been testing you." My pulse stopped. "Testing me?" I whispered, confusion and dread mingling. "Yes," he said. "I knew how lonely you were. I knew how desperate. And I needed to see if you could resist. To see if you had the discipline to keep yourself and this house safe." I staggered back, disbelief washing over me. Every brush, every touch, every glance, it had been orchestrated, a test of control, not desire, not temptation, a test I had unknowingly passed. Relief, humiliation, and something darker churned in me. The desire hadn't been fake, but the circumstances, the nearness, the tension, it had all been calculated. I realized then how close I had come. Not just to temptation, but to being manipulated by it. And yet, in that moment, the ache of longing, the memory of every brush of his hand, every lingering presence, still burned inside me. I had survived. But at what cost to my heart, my sense of self, and my understanding of what was real? I left the kitchen that night with my hands shaking and my mind in turmoil. I had come face to face with temptation and survived, but the emotional aftermath lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. Gideon's revelation, that everything had been a test, left me raw, exposed, and painfully aware of my own vulnerabilities. I had been starved for attention, craving connection, and yet I had maintained control when it mattered most. Even now, I replay the moments, the brushes of skin, the lingering glances, and the almost things that never happened. I carry both relief and the ache of what could have been, a secret I will never share with anyone else. Some desires, I've learned, are dangerous precisely because they feel real, even when the world around them is a careful illusion. If you've ever faced temptation you almost gave into, share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.